life is too short. Do what you want to do.
Okay, so today we have Kiyane, and she is the Wealth Building RN. She helps healthcare professionals build wealth with real estate and life insurance. So, Kiyane, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into nursing?
Yes. I'm 27. I'll be 28 next month. I got into nursing actually because my mother is a nurse. But she hasn't been working bedside since she was like pregnant with me, to be quite honest. But yeah, so I figured I actually initially when I got into college, I wanted to do psych. And my mom was like, well, with nursing, you could just do everything. If you wanna do psych with nursing, that's fine. Like,
That's true.
she definitely tried to change my mind, and she did. But ultimately, I love what I do, but I definitely had the mindset very early on that I was not going to stay at the bedside.
Mhm.
I do work, I just work PRN princess, as they like to say. Um but I initially actually too got into real estate because so I've always had a joy, I've always had a love for homes. When I was growing up, my mom was actually a real estate agent.
Oh, wow.
And she would take me with her to all her showings to all her clients, right? So it became this thing. And then when I purchased my house, because I purchased my house very early, people were very shocked. I purchased my house like a year after I graduated from college.
Oh,
Maybe not,
wow.
actually, not even a year. So I was 22, so I was very young. And I became a landlord. I didn't just purchase my house to live in it. I purchased my house to have tenants in it.
Wow.
And of course, as you can imagine, people were, very shocked, like, okay, there's this young
Mhm.
girl. She's bought it was a brand new house. It was
Oh, wow.
newly built. I was actually one of the first people in my community. So my community is very large now. But there was nothing but dirt. It was about 8 houses and dirt.
Where was
So
this?
even my neighbors, this is I live in Maryland.
Oh, okay.
Um Yes, I live in the DMV area. So of course all my neighbors was like, there's this young girl next door. Like, how did she afford this house? And all my friends too were like, how did you afford this house? But little did they know that I was like really saving during college. I had a job throughout my whole college career and I was saving. And then of course, as you can imagine, when I became a nurse, I started making more. And what was I doing? I was I was
Saving.
saving majority of my money. I didn't have any bills. Um so I was saving majority of my money. Um and yeah, I actually the initial conversation actually, because I remember it to this day, of me even wanting to purchase a house, I was actually going out with my mother. We were looking at homes to rent.
Mm.
And I had in mind that I was just gonna like rent a house, have some roommates, and it was gonna be that type of thing. But the cost of renting the homes, my mom said to me, like literally, she said this to me verbatim. She said, you could just buy a house. And I looked at her, I was like, really? She's
I
like,
would have said the same thing, like, "Wait, I'm
yeah.
22."
Yeah. She's like, yeah. Like she said it so like with the utmost positive mind, like it's easy. You could do it. Like so I was like,
That's wild.
okay, sure. And yeah, I began my journey. So again, I purchased my first house at the age of 22, and then I still was like, I want to buy another one. And then at that point, my mom, like, now at that point, my mom was like, okay, like, you need to slow down because
Mhm.
I felt like to her, me living in a house and becoming a landlord wasn't risky, but me like buying a property and fixing it up, and now
Mm.
that was risky to her. So she wasn't like as supportive. Actually, I feel like she wasn't supportive at all, to be honest. But I still was going out looking at houses. I was calling real estate agents myself. I was getting in contact with wholesalers. Um, I was doing everything I could to just kind of like get as much knowledge as I could, which fun fact, a lot of people don't know this. I paid there's this guy who owns multiple properties in Philly. I paid
Mhm.
him $15,000. 15. to learn how to get into real estate investing.
Oh, geez.
So that's a lot of money, and when you spend that much money, you take it seriously. You're like,
Oh, yeah, for
"I
sure.
gotta do this now," you know?
Especially is
So,
like a mentorship?
yeah, it was a mentorship. So I was like, "I gotta do this now," you know? Now I will say that although I paid that much money, I felt like so you could be in the mentorship for a year. I felt like I did not keep up with it for a year. I think
Mm,
it's just more so of my learning style, which is more like step by like I feel like I'm the type of person where it's like, okay, like move out the way. Don't show me, tell me while I'm doing it.
mm. I
So
like
I
that.
need to like exactly, I need to do it for my because if I keep watching you do something, that still doesn't mean that I can do it.
100%.
I need
I
to
agree with
try
you.
it for myself. If I fail, I fail, and then you just tell me what I did wrong. Um, so I I just went ahead and I contacted a wholesaler and I negotiated the price and then boom, I bought a house.
Dang.
I bought a house,
Alright.
yeah.
We got a lot to talk about. So, like so for the first one, 22 years old. You've been saving. How did you get into the house? Like, how did you qualify for the loan? Like, was it like 3.5%, like a FHA? What was the game plan going in?
So it was an FHA loan. So only had to put down, I want to say even 3%. Um, which that equaled to maybe like $14,000, I want to
Oh,
say.
wow.
Which at the age of 22, I definitely had like
Mhm.
I not only saved up during college, but earning, I want to say my initial start as a nurse was like $30 an hour.
Mhm.
And the only bill I had was maybe like a phone bill? I wasn't even paying my student loans because I went straight back to school, so they were in deferment. Um, so, like, you're saving
Mhm.
all of what you make,
That's
basically.
amazing.
So, I had all the money for a down payment, and then to qualify became very stressful, and here's why. It's not because I wasn't earning enough or because my debt to income ratio wasn't
Hmm,
satisfying good, it was actually because so the reason too my credit was so great was because I was an authorized user on my mom's
there
credit
we go.
card. She started me off very early, even in high school. I had my first American Express in 2014. I can show you right now. This is 2014 on that car. I graduated high school in 2014. So I've had credit. But the tricky part was when I was purchasing the home, they wanted to use, since I was an authorized user, they wanted to use my mom's debt as
Mm,
mine and not separate it, which didn't qualify me if I used her debt. Because not to say that she had a lot of debt, but the ratio of how much I was making compared to her
I
debt,
see.
it would have disqualified me. So what we had to do, which was also stressful to her because she's like, "I'm not even buying this house, like, you're buying the house." Um, she had to write multiple letters, also get letters from banks basically stating that I have never, ever, ever made a payment on any of her cards,
Oh,
any of
wow.
her bills. Which, as you can imagine, a person so my mom is 55, so that was, like, 5 years ago. So imagine as, like, 50-year-old, woman, she has a lot of different bills and things, so she had to
Mhm.
contact them all and
Wow.
basically get letters to say that that was not my debt, which was stressful because, when you buy a house, they're digging into
Oh, yeah.
your life,
Everything.
like, they wanna know where every cent comes from. "Oh, was this a gift? Was this it? Well, why did you send him $500?" They're digging, so they're also digging into her life, who's not even on the deed.
That's wild.
So, we got past it, of course, as you can see, but I think that was it's like she gave me a head start by doing that, and I'm absolutely grateful, but at that moment, it created an issue.
I wonder because I have my 2 kids, they're only, like, 2 and 4 years old, but I have them as authorized users because obviously I wanna do what your mom did, give my kids the best shot at good credit, and now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, "Dang, that sounds like a headache," also. So, like,
I
how
know.
long did it take to, like, clear everything?
So I wanted to say I started looking for a house in April of 2019, and I moved into my house on August 30th. So that was a
Okay.
couple of months. But to be fair, in the meantime, I was, in a sense, purchasing almost three different houses. So I started off with one, and in order to qualify that house, I needed to get like this first time home buyer program, and it's
Okay.
like first come first served, and ugh, this moment was devastating. So with this program, let's just say you had to get on July 19th at 9 a.m. to apply. I was at work. I brought my laptop, everything. Everybody knew what I was about to do. Everybody was like, take Kiane's patient. She's going in there. She's trying to get this money. So I had my laptop. I logged in at 8:59, and I was too early. So I applied for the wrong application.
Oh, shoot.
So yeah, like I was, oh my goodness. I can remember how I felt in that moment at the time. Um, I was devastated. So I couldn't purchase that house, the initial house that I wanted to buy. So then we started looking for another house, and then I was in the process of buying another house in my community. Like from ground up. It wasn't even built yet. So I was in the process of doing that. And while I was in the process of doing that, a spec home, which a spec home is just a house, because I live in a townhouse. A spec home is just a house that they already build to kinda, like, show everyone. It's almost like a model
Mm,
house, but not a model house, to show everyone, like, different upgrades and details that you could put into a house, basically. So it was already
mhm,
done, still brand new. It's just that it was done, let's just say, 2 months earlier than the house that I was going to buy. But they couldn't sell it,
oh,
so they dropped the price on it. Now, mind you, this house was actually going to be bigger than the house that I was building, much bigger, actually. So once they dropped the price, I said to my mom, I was like, "You think I could get that one instead?" Here's my thing. My thing is like the sky's the limit. I'm like, "Why don't I go for
that
the
one. I
bigger one?"
want that one.
She's like, "Yeah, why don't you go for the bigger one?" And I went for the bigger one and I got it.
Yeah, you
So
seem
it was
like a
just
full go-getter after this.
I was a full go getter because I'm like, well, if they just drop the price, like, why not? Why not?
Right,
That's my motto now. Why not? Because why
and
not?
that's amazing. Like, so you were like, how did you get that mindset? Even though your mom was like a real estate agent and saying like, "Oh, you could probably just buy the house." How even from the beginning, how did you have the mindset to save money?
Honestly, for my dad is cheap. Like, we're gonna use the word cheap because he's cheap. He's like, like, goes so far that let's just say he makes a sandwich and puts it into, like, a bag, like a Ziploc bag. The next day, if he makes another sandwich, he'll just reuse the same bag.
Used
And yes, he is that cheap. So I've always had the mindset, and there's this saying, and I apply it to everything in life. It's not how much money you make, it's how much money you keep.
Mhm,
Everyone can
100%.
make six figures if they want to,
Yep.
but does everyone keep six figures? No,
No.
absolutely
And
not.
because that's like the biggest thing I see, especially with nurses coming out of nursing school or anybody like you're a young 22-year-old, usually when you graduate. And the first thing that people buy is like a fancy car or crazy luxury goods. And then you're starting off your career like in debt. But in your case, you had saved money. And the first big purchase you did is technically a rental property, a live in rental, right? Like
Yes, a
insane.
live-in rental.
And that skyrockets like a lot of people's wealth. How did you find people to live with you?
So I actually started on Facebook Marketplace. So a lot of people are always like, "You get random people from Facebook Marketplace?" I'm like, "Yep, I still do. I still do to this day." And actually the first girl that lived in with me, um, I remember I always remember like pivotal points of my life. And I remember she had given me her money to move and made this decision. I'm excited. I'm like, okay, I got a tenant. I got a tenant. And one day I was at work and I don't know if she had just like a moment of clarity or doubt or I don't know what it was, but she changed her mind.
Oh.
And I remember me crying. I went to the bathroom. I was crying because I was like, it wasn't in my initial plan to pay this entire mortgage, like,
Mhm. Of
that was
course.
not part of the plan. Like, and it wasn't, that was not part of the plan, but she changed her mind again, and she ended up moving in with me, but since then, I've been in my house for 5 years, August 2019, and since then, I've had, ooh, maybe, like, almost 20 tenants,
Oh, dang.
almost about 20
Are you
tenants.
renting out each room or
I am. So, it's a 3 bedroom, so I actually technically I don't even live in my house. Like, I'm not in the DMV right now at this moment. I don't even live in my house anymore. My stuff is still there, but I don't live in it. But anyways, I was living in one and, I was renting out my other 2 rooms. So I had 2 tenants,
Mhm.
living with me, and at first, each of them stayed, like, almost a year.
Okay.
Um, but then quickly, I feel like I got it started getting people for a few months or so, which that was still great for me. Cause so my lease is a month to month lease. It's not
Oh,
a
okay.
yearly lease. I did that. I actually got a lawyer to make my lease. And the reason he did that, he was like, because if you ever need to kick somebody out, we don't need to be going through the process, it could take months
Yeah, of course.
to kick somebody out of your house for a failure to pay rent or for just different things in general. So I made my leases month to month leases. So all my tenants have to do to move out is give me 30-day notice. So in that 30-day notice, I just go on Facebook Marketplace and I find another tenant and then I screen them. Of course, I use like a screening application to do a
Yeah.
background check, a credit check. Yeah, and then they move in.
Wow. I didn't even think about that for my rental properties to do, like, month to month. That seems pretty solid to do because, like, if you guys just aren't, like, vibing together as, like, a landlord tenant, you just be like, "Alright, you got 30 days. Just give me 30
Right.
days."
Just 30 days. That's it. And it has worked out great for me. I've only had maybe like 2 tenants that I had to kick out.
And why
And
was that?
so one of them, I don't know if she was trying to get out of her lease quicker. Or I don't know what she was trying to do, but basically she accused me, not even accused me. She accused the house of having bed bugs.
Mm.
And I was like, "What?" So, I actually have to tell the story because you're gonna be like, "What?" So, mind you, I was at work. I told you I always remember moments where I'm either highly upset or highly sad. She calls me. She's like, she didn't even call me. She texts me. She says, "Hey, Kiane, I got a bed bug inspector to come inspect the house." So my first thought is, you got
You got
first of all, this is my house. You got an inspector to come inspect my house? You didn't ask me, you didn't tell me, you didn't say she didn't say not a word. And
That's
she was
crazy.
like, "Yeah, and he said there's bed bugs in the house and there's bed bugs in the bathroom and on the walls out downstairs." And at first I'm like, first of all, bed bugs don't even
Mm.
work like that. So what? Second of all, if there was bed bugs, you brought them. So I'm confused. And at that, she had the nerve to she blamed she was like, "I think it's because of the other tenant." Well, mind you, the other tenant that was living in the house wasn't even there. She actually is a very close friend of mine. She's a travel nurse, and she wasn't even living in the house. She was traveling. So she was like, "I think she brought it into the house." And I'm like, So how did it get from her bed to your bed and y'all are in 2 different like, it just then like,
That doesn't
the
make sense.
story I was like, What?" So what I did was I asked her, I said, "Okay, what was the company that came to inspect the house?"
Mm,
I called them right away. I was at work. I told them, I said, "Give me an hour." I said, "I'll be right back." I called the inspector. They were like, "Yeah, we came, blah, 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 blah." Because I saw it on my Ring camera too that he came. So they were like, "Yeah, he came." I said, "Well, can I have the report?" They were like, "Well, we don't keep the report. The person
mm.
who inspects the home keeps the report." I said, "Okay, what's his name and number? I'll call him." I called him. He never, to this day, never called me back. I called him multiple times. So basically,
Mm-mm.
whoever this probably was a friend.
That's what I'm thinking right now. It's probably a friend being like, "Oh, let's try to get some free rent out of this or something."
Y Yes, to inspect the home. So then what I did was, since they never answered, I said, "Imma do my due diligence." So I got my own inspector to come in. He saw not a one bed bugs, and then I said to him, I said, "Can you spray some, like, pre-treatment or stuff?" He was like, "Absolutely." So I got them to spray the pre-treatment, and then I gave her 30-day notice, and I said, "This is on you. You have to pay for this." And she did,
That's it.
because, like, how do you just I really don't know her motive. Like,
That's wild.
there was no bed bugs. I'm like, how you pay a random person or your friend, whoever, to get lie and say there was bed bugs up all down the walls and the back? Like, what? Now that was a wild
This is
story.
that's crazy.
So of
That
course,
is
yes, I
crazy,
gave her 30-day notice because I was like, I don't know what you're trying to do. It's not gonna work with
but you
me.
gotta get out of here.
You got to get out of here. And then the second tenant, I just kicked him out just because he was not clean at all.
Yeah.
I've actually had no issues with any of my tenants in like cleanliness, but him, I was like, this is getting out of hand. This
I
this
was
is
about
getting
to just
this.
ask, since you said, like, the ones you mentioned, a lot of your, tenants were women. I was about to ask you, would that be a prerequisite for you because you yourself at the time were living there for, like, safety issues?
So I started off with women because honestly, that's all I was getting. For the last maybe 2 years now, all I've had was men.
Oh, okay.
So it definitely I feel like, was he my first guy? No, he actually wasn't my first guy. But since then, I've recently, yeah, for like the last 2 years now, all I've had was men now.
Oh, wow. That
So I don't it doesn't matter to me. I don't mean I don't walk around the house like,
yeah, yeah.
like anything. It doesn't, as long as you're clean, as long as you pay me on time, which I feel like men, to be honest, are easier to communicate with. If it's
Yeah.
been any issues, like, 'cause even though everyone was clean, that still doesn't mean that I didn't have to say like, "Hey, can you just make sure you do this," or whatever. I feel like it was much easier communicating with men in my experience to say like, "Hey, could you do this or that?" They're like, "Okay, no problem. Oh yeah, I'll work with you." Versus women, it's like, "Oh, well, and I'm cool, to be honest, I'm cool with all of my previous tenants, like, even the one that I kicked out. um, I'm cool with everyone because I know how to remain professional, but I can't say I've had much more, like, I guess you could say talk back or, like,
Mhm.
rebuttal from women.
Nice. And then so how many rental properties do you have now?
So I have 4.
Oh, wow. You scaled
Yes.
up pretty quickly.
And
And
hard because I do full guts.
oh, you do, like, the full rehab, everything?
Do everything. New roof, new pipes, new electrical, new HVAC, new walls, new beams, new ductwork, new everything.
So what's your full strategy for that? Like, this
Ugh,
doesn't sound like a regular burr or anything like that.
it's so I still do the burr method, but my first contractor I had to fire, and I took
Mhm.
way too long to fire him. And that is probably one of the biggest lessons I've learned,
Yeah.
because taking so long to fire him messed me up, with my hard money loan, and it messed me up with time because hard money loan is time.
Yeah, a lot of time.
Um, so that was probably my biggest mistake. And I'll tell people all the time, I'd be like, if he's not doing what he says he's gonna do, fire him, so quick, fire. Like,
You have to be
I'm very
fast.
like roar now, like fire him because
You have to.
the it's not even the contractors either. It's the subcontractors, the people who
That's
do the different specialties, of work. They're either one, not good enough. And when I say not good enough is the towel looks all messed up, and or either two, they cost an arm and a leg. So that's your contractor's job to make sure one, he has the best team of people who can do good work,
yep.
and then two, also just making sure who gets paid. And that was the issue with my first contractor. He started like and now that I have a new contractor, he'll say to me different stuff about that. But basically, as a contractor, you need to do one job at a time, especially if it's a full gut job. Finish the full gut job, and then you can send your contractors on little house assignments to fix the bathroom, fix the kitchen. But
Mhm.
what he was doing was he was sending my contractors elsewhere to do outside jobs, and they weren't at my house to finish my house. So it took
Yep.
forever for them to finish it. And then eventually it's like I had given him some money for like, let's just say like plumbing, electrical. Plumbing, electrical is going to cost you pretty much the
Oh, yeah.
most. Um, I had already paid him for plumbing and electrical, and like,
I
I
know where
kept
exactly this is going.
calling him. He's like, "Oh, they're coming." Never came. And then he starts, like, picking up the phone less. It was actually very, like, insane to me because we were very close. Like, I would talk to him on the phone almost every single day. And then it just got less and less and less and less. And actually, the reason for that being is because so I actually had anytime I would meet a subcontractor, I would make sure I took down their name and their phone number just in case I needed anything specifically to do with what they did. And I ended up contacting one of the plumbers in one of my houses for something, and he was like, "Yeah, I don't talk to him no more because he owes me money." And there you go.
There you go.
That's why. So, he lost his team because he wasn't paying his team.
And yeah, that's the same thing with me when I had to deal with a bunch of contractors. If I paid them early, I noticed that they just wouldn't show up anymore.
Mhm.
Or they'd put my project at the end of their
Yeah,
list
right.
because I already paid. Do you It sounds like you're on top of the projects, but are you, like, fully involved in it as well?
I am. Oh my gosh. I've actually taken a break right now, and I'm very, very much enjoying this break because it is stressful because not only do you need to stay up to date, okay, like what's been done, what hasn't been done,
Mhm.
but you need to stay up to date on like, okay, when you get to the refinance part, which is stressful, getting to the finance. I feel like the
Yeah.
easiest part of all this is actually purchasing the house.
Oh, yeah, 100%,
That's the easy
100%.
part. Getting a loan, I have great credit. To purchase a house, easy. A breeze, right?
Are you doing straight, like, hard money loan to buy it out fully and rehab, or you're getting, like, a regular loan and then getting a hard money to rehab?
No. So I only did a hard money rehab on one of my houses, which covered not everything, but majority of it. But what I do know, I just get like a personal loan. Um,
Oh.
and then purchase the house with the personal loan. And then I pay my contractors, which I've been doing this ever since. Even if I have enough money from the loan to pay them, I pay my contractors on credit cards.
Mhm.
Um, one, because that's how I get to travel for free because I've done
Yep,
racked up
credit.
so many points from paying people thousands of dollars.
Yep.
Um, two, actually paying them on a credit card saved me. So the contractor that I fired, like I said, I had already paid for electrical and plumbing, and it was not finished. So what did I do?
Oh,
I called Amex and
dis
I said, "Dispute." They gave
dispute they
me
didn't
everything
finish.
back. Gave me
Wow. That's
everything back,
a
and I thank God that I did that because I was like, "Whoo, that would have been bad."
maybe I gotta start doing that.
Yes.
I didn't even think of that. That's genius. And then so, I'm just looking at your Instagram, and you obviously wanna help people build with real estate, and everyone thinks that's, like, the hardest thing to get into because it's, like, the highest entry point is the money. So how do you get people to kind of get where you started?
So first you need credit.
Mhm.
You cannot do this without credit. I don't care if you have $100,000 in the bank to buy a house now, you still need credit. Um, and that's where I kind of start. I kind of start with teaching them like easy ways to increase your credit because now granted, I do still recommend that you pay somebody to fix your credit, but if it's a few simple points that you
Mhm.
need to be above 740 is really where I like to be.
Same.
Um, I'll just give you tips and tricks kind of to get your score up, which are very easy because I've done it myself. Um, and then from there, I always say you need to start with the basics. So understand your location. So even though I
Mm.
live in the DMV area closer to DC, my houses are in Baltimore. So you need to understand whether your houses in Baltimore, Philly, Detroit, those are high, high market areas. Um, you need to know how much you're going to pay, how much rent people pay. If people pay rent, I would say
Yeah,
Baltimore people are famous for not paying their rent on time, which is why now I have Section 8 tenants. Um,
I was about to just ask
then
that.
yes, because oh Jesus, that was a stressor in itself too. Um, but you need to know what you want. You also need to know what type of investor you want to be. There are a lot of actually, and Baltimore is changing the laws on this, but there are thousands of buy and hold investors in Baltimore.
Oh,
They just
really?
purchase the house, could be a hole in the ground, and then they just keep it there for years. But Baltimore is actually changing it now to where they're going to tax people at higher rates if they don't fix up the house, if they just keep it as is. Um, so you need to know if you're going to go for a full rehab like me, or something where it just needs some fixtures, or something where it just needs kitchen and bathroom. You need to know what type of investor you want to be. You also need to know if you want to be a landlord, or if you just want to flip and flip, if you just want to sell the house, keep building it and selling the house. Um, you need to have a strategy. So that's where I start because if I didn't have a strategy, then you need a plan. Um,
Mhm.
and then from there, that's when I teach them different ways to find like cheap houses because in my experience, although and it's actually fun fact, my mom is now a real estate agent again. She went back and took her test. But even though she is one, I actually don't purchase my houses from real estate agents. All of my houses came from
How does she feel
wholesalers.
about that, not getting a commission from you?
I mean, she doesn't mind it, but she's like she's like, "Well, next time I'll just find you something." And I'm like, "Of course, ma, of course." But yeah, I've purchased all my houses from wholesalers, which are they're used to negotiating because I will admit I lowball. If you say 50, I'll be like 20.
Real
They look
quick,
at me
20.
like, "What?" I'm like,
I'm not
20. And
even
I'll be
making
so
money off
serious.
that.
Because I wanna buy this house for as cheap as I can, so I'm gonna lowball. I'm 20. They'll be like, 30. I'm like, 20. They're like, well, 25. I'm like, 20.
Just keep it till they say yes.
Exactly. They're gonna say yes eventually. So
How much does these rehabs cost you?
ooh, anywhere between I would say all of them were about like 130.
Okay, so it's not
Yeah.
crazy.
No,
Just
not
the HVAC, electrical,
right.
plumbing, roof.
Electrical, plumbing, roof, yep, and HVAC.
And
Um,
how do you get the loans for that? You said just
so
said personal loans for everything?
yep, same thing. Personal loans for everything. Like I said, just one of them was a hard money loan. I wouldn't say I wouldn't do hard money loans again. I would, but now I have learned that when you have a hard money loan, you just have to make sure that you 100% trust that your contractor is going to be finished in 4
X
months
amount of time. Yep.
because it shouldn't take more than 4 months to rebuild this house. It honestly it shouldn't. And that house that I had the hard money loan in took a year.
Oh, geez.
So, and that's because like I said, we were like wasting months and time because I was waiting on people.
Yeah.
So if you're confident, which I am now, like that new contractor that I have, he has done investing himself, so he knows how it feels. I 100% trust him now that he can be finished in 4 months, easily.
Yep. And have you tried like 0% credit cards?
I have, absolutely, I've done most of my credit cards. Most of my
Because
credit cards, I think I still have one that's at 0%, probably one, but the rest of them have now, have, some interest on it, but yes, absolutely. That's all I did. I just applied for credit cards that has 0% interest because that's what you're going to need, like to borrow money where you're not having to pay them back more than you borrowed. That's the
yeah.
key. And like I said, I was getting people were like, "How are you in the middle of renovating houses and you're traveling every month?" And I'm like, "Cuz I'm
Well,
racking up some points."
no, it's a genius strategy. Like I put my few people on game, and then some other people that were on the podcast as well. They're like, "How do you do all your real estate investing? How do you do all this other leveraging extra money when you're only on like a nursing income?" I'm like, "Well, there's something called like transfer balances, 0% credit cards, and I'm not trying to put people in debt. Obviously, you have to know your numbers to make sure it all works, but it's a huge life hack to increase your net worth, especially if you're doing something, if you're buying assets with it, or vice versa. You could also use these balance transfer cards to reduce debt because you're taking away these high interest credit card and putting it onto a 0%. So there's so many
Yeah.
ways you could use it, and then not a lot of people know about it. And then like some of my coworkers, until I told them about it, they're just cool with paying like 27% on their credit card. I'm like, why? And especially when
No.
if like the debt was only like 5, 10K, I'm like, absolutely not. I was like, put it all on a 0%, take her like figure out the number, divide it by 12 or whatever months there is, and pay it off with paying 0%. Like just don't put yourself in debt again, and then you're golden from there.
You're go A lot of people don't even know, call your credit card companies. You can
Exactly.
negotiate. If
Yep.
you just paid off 2K, you can say, "Hey, I'm trying to pay down this debt. I just paid off 2 grand. Can you lower my APR? Or
Yeah.
can you increase my credit limit?" Something. They're gonna do something.
Something. Something. But a lot of people are just afraid to, or just lazy to do that phone
Mhm.
call. So let's go into the next part of your business. So you're also do life insurance. Are
I
you a life
do.
insurance agent?
So I'm a life insurance broker. So
Okay.
the difference, and I honestly, I have to explain this difference to my clients as well because they're like, "Huh, what is the difference?" So the broker means that I don't work for one company. I don't work for State Farm. I don't work for Mutual Omaha. I don't work for one company. I work for you, my client, and I get you the best rate, whether that's at
Mm,
NLG, F&G, Mutual Omaha, Rural Neighbors, all these different life insurance companies. I go with whatever works best for you. And so,
mm,
the reason how I even got started in this, Lord Jesus, I have a friend and that's what she does. She's actually retired from the bedside. She does not work nursing.
amazing.
She just does life insurance. And I think she convinced me because I didn't realize how easy it was to convert from being a nurse to being a life insurance broker. And what I mean by that is what you're doing is in order to get people qualified, you're going through their health history because and a lot
Mhm.
of people always say to me, they're like, how did all my clients I get this, they're so shook. They're like, how did the life insurance company know that I took metoprolol 20 years ago? Everything is tied to your social. They need to know how long you're expected to live, and how will they
Mhm.
estimate that? They don't estimate that out of thin air. They need to know your health. So even if
Yeah.
you tell me, you could be lying to me. Even if you tell me, "Hey, I don't take any medication," and I'm like, "Okay," they're gonna find out. They're gonna message
They'll
me and be
find
like,
out.
"Oh, she took metoprolol 20 years ago, and she had cancer in 2005," and they're they know everything. Your social is tied to everything. I don't have anything to do with that. My job is to plug in your information, which is easy to convert because I understand medical illnesses because I'm already a nurse.
Nurse, yep.
So it's very easy to do and I enjoy it because I'm an ER nurse, and although I love being an ER nurse, it doesn't feel helpful to me unless like you're dying. And the reason I say that is because 9 times out of 10 in the ER, we treat you, we don't cure you.
Yep.
We treat your symptoms. Like we aren't curing you or changing your whole trajectory unless you're dying. So sometimes I feel like I'm not necessarily being helpful to people because they'll still say, "Well, I still have the abdominal pain."
Yeah.
Or, "Well,
It's
I gotta go see my primary care doctor. You guys can't give me anything." So it doesn't uh, you have to explain to people what the purpose of the emergency room is, but I don't necessarily feel helpful to people. So that's also why I love life insurance because too many people don't realize if you die today, if you drop dead right now, how much stress I've seen it first, second, third hand from family members. How much stress it is having to pay your mortgage, pay for the
mhm.
funeral, do all these things, financial costs that you don't have the money for. I have seen people lose their grandmother's houses that they had for years to investors because they couldn't pay the taxes on the house. The house fully paid off, fully paid off.
Yeah.
Your grandma, Becky, paid off the house. All you had to do was pay the taxes, but you didn't even have enough money to pay the taxes. Why? Because she didn't have life insurance. And
Yep.
now that beautiful house is being sold for $1 million in DC because an investor took it from you because you couldn't pay the
Yeah.
taxes on it.
And those tax deed people, all they had to pay was a few grand and they took your house.
They took your house, swept it right up under you. I've
Yep.
seen it happen too many times, and people don't know what that pain is like until they feel it themselves or they literally see people crying.
It's
I've
wild.
seen it.
So with the life insurance, because obviously there's spectrums to it where you could see in any comment section of anyone that talks about life insurance, there's people that talk about the great good stuff that, like you just said, it could technically save a family and their wealth and their properties, everything like that, and pay for everything. But then there's also the people that say it's like a scam. So how do you tell people that think the worst of life insurance that, like, if someone was looking into it, which way would you steer them? Like term, or which products would you look into?
So if they're young and healthy, and when I say young and healthy, maybe like 30 or even 35 and below, I shoot for IULs, which is Index Universal Life Insurance. And the reason I do that is because I have found that a lot of people really don't know the details of 401ks. They don't know if it's
Mhm.
tax, not tax. They don't know how much they can put in, how much they can pull out with penalty, no penalty. People don't know the difference between a 401k, a pension, a
Yeah.
403b, a Roth. They don't know the differences. So all they know is that somebody told them, which is their job. Somebody told them to put money in this thing, and then that's what I do, right? So I shoot for IULs because 9 times out of 10, I realize you aren't going to be able to retire with the amount of money you're putting into your 401k. And I'm not saying a 401k can't retire you. I'm just saying you're not taking advantage of it how you should be. Um,
Mhm.
so that's why I do IULs because you need to be healthy to qualify for an IUL. And then also too, you need to basically you get retirement income when you retire. And I always give people the example of my IUL because I have an IUL. By the time I'm turned 65, I'll have $2 million to retire from my life insurance policy. That's
Mhm.
from a life insurance policy. So that's why I do that. If they're like 35, 50, I try and shoot for term, but just like let's just say a $500,000 policy um for a term policy, which I always ask people, one of the first questions I always ask them is, do you have a house? And they're always like, no or yes, or they kind of question mark, like, why are you asking me that? Because I always say you need enough money to
To
cover
pay
your
the house.
house,
Mhm.
which is why my policy is so hefty because I have multiple houses.
Yep.
Um, so I always tell them that's the number I'm shooting for. Okay. But how much is your house worth? How much are you paying? So I can get you a number, a death benefit that's definitely for surely going to cover that. But
Mhm.
I shoot for term and people about that age group. Also, too, it depends on how much you pay monthly. Like if you're saying you could pay $500 a month or more, I think IULs are perfect for that. If you're saying you could pay like $100, I'm like, let's shoot for a term. If you're 50 and over, all the way final expense. And final expense sounds scary to people because they're like, but I'm not like on my deathbed.
Yeah. That's always like
I
the
get
scary
it.
thing.
Right, which is like, I get it, but for final expense just means that you're older. You're not going to die soon. That doesn't necessarily mean that, but you're older. You probably already have health conditions, more than likely hypertension, something. You have something,
Something.
um, and you just need a little bit extra cash. So you could still pay out a really hefty final expense policy. You can get 50 grand for final expense, which can still help somebody's
Help
daughter,
somebody.
granddaughter, somebody. The point is to just leave them with something. You don't got to
Yep.
leave them millionaires, but to leave them with something.
Yep. And that's big. So I have a question since I have a IUL. Um, is yours a cash value one?
Yes.
So like it
Yes.
slowly over time grows and the death benefit continues to grow. And then by the time you're like
Yes.
60, 65, whatever your original death benefit was, now it's a multiple of it or something
It's
like
very
that.
much it'll be very, I want to say it, even though I have mine as that I'll be paying for life.
Hmm.
Um, I wanna say let's just say I die at 85, which that's like my trajectory because my grandparents have grown to
Hmm.
be in their 80s. I wanna say it'll be my death benefit will be at 8 million by the time I'm
Dang.
85.
Killing it.
I don't know
Literally.
who will need 8 million in my life. I don't even have any
Yeah.
kids, but,
Yeah.
so look, somebody will need it. So,
Somebody.
hey.
That's what I'm so like I've noticed this amongst the people I've interviewed and the people that talk about life insurance. Mostly people like ourselves that have real estate tend to have IULs where people that are more um conservative or
Mhm.
very 401k Roth IRA, that's it. They just have term. Why do you think that is?
I think that's because, well, first of all, both the IUL and your 401k or Roth are tied to the S&P 500.
Mhm.
So they're tied to the same investment vehicle, they just invest differently. And the main difference is, I guess, because people who own real estate, they see tax benefits and they keep tax benefits in the back of their head. So I
Always.
think that's why they shoot for, right. I think that's why they shoot for IULs, because you're not going to pay taxes on it. Also too, one key thing is that, like, I haven't borrowed from my IUL yet. However, do I plan to? Absolutely.
Mhm.
I'm going to borrow from it and buy a house with it. How do you
Yep,
you buy an asset
absolutely.
from an asset? And it says so. Um, I think that's why, because the more money you make, a lot of people always hear this all the time, and they talk about it all. They're like, "Well, I don't get how the rich don't pay taxes, and they're scam." And no, when you start to make so much money, you don't want people taking your money.
Yep.
That's everybody. You're gonna switch your mindset to how much money, I told you, how much money you can keep, not how much
Mhm.
money you can make. So you're gonna eventually switch your mindset. I'm making all this money and it's going all this is going to Uncle Sam. No,
Nope, not for me.
no. So I think that's why. And like I said, it's nothing wrong with a 401k. I don't discourage people to stop putting in their 401k, 403b, wherever you may have. I just say, like, look, if you plan on growing, if you plan on making more money, if you plan on setting your children up for success, trust fund babies,
Mhm.
then you need accounts that have tax advantages. Because honestly, and to be totally truthful, a 401k is not saving anyone taxes but your employer. Your employer gets tax
Yep,
benefits on giving you a 401k. So,
yep,
like I said, not to say that you won't be a millionaire with it or without it. It's just that I need to keep as much money as I possibly can.
I agree. And then obviously, like that, like you said, like how the rich don't pay taxes. That's how they're able to borrow, and you can't tax borrowed money.
Yes.
And it's, eh, okay. Another question. So I'm also looking into my kids since they're 4 and 2. Are you big on starting whole life policies from a young age?
I am. I actually just did one for a 2-year-old, and she just turned 2, just in September. Um, and when I say I could see the smile on her mother's face, like, she'll be paying $50 for the rest of her life and will
Yep.
still be a millionaire. I'm like,
Yep.
yeah, yeah,
That's
because time is money.
yep.
It
That's the
needs to grow
amazing
and
part.
compound.
Grows in compounds. They get to lock in their beautiful health from right now,
Yep.
and they'll have this amazing death benefit even if you don't even go with, like, the highest one, I believe. If that's
Yes.
what I was reading, like, you do, like, the 100,000 one, and then that could eventually grow itself as well.
It just grows. The quickest time. You cannot wait. It's and even though I could still get you coverage even if you're in heart failure or on dialysis, doesn't matter. Um, it's just easier, it's cheaper, and it's easier to get a bunch of money while you're healthy and young.
Mhm.
Don't wait, because that's why I hear people say all the time, "Well, I don't know if I have the money right now." And I get it. The economy is trash. I get it.
Yeah.
But if you have $30 a month right now, I could just do a $30 a month policy. Then if you happen to in the future 10 years from now start can throwing $500 into your policy, we could just get another one. There are
Yep.
tons of people who have multiple life insurance policies. You don't have to just have one.
One. Yep.
So, if you wanna get another one, boom, get get another one. Just start. You have to start from somewhere. That's the hardest in life. It doesn't matter what you're doing. You could become a doctor. The hardest thing is starting. It's not finishing, it's starting.
Starting. And that seems like with everything with what you're doing, it was just starting. That's how I feel like that's how you're building your wealth. You started at such a young age of 22 getting that first property. Now you have 4, and then now you're not even really working as, like, a nurse full time anymore, you said, and because you're doing all these amazing things outside of work. For
Yes.
the nurses that are trying to figure out what they could do for, like, to get out of the bedside, like, what advice would you give them?
I would say learn a new skill. It doesn't you don't have to be a life insurance broker. You don't have to buy properties. It's just learning a new skill. You could purchase land. I know people who do land. You could purchase land. You could do Airbnb, arbitrage. You could learn how to trade.
Mhm.
It's just a skill, and I get it. Learning something completely different from nursing is very like it throws you
Yeah.
off a little bit because it's like feels like nursing is all you know, trust me. It feels like nursing is all you know. I get it, like, we're ingrained,
Yeah.
but, just learn a new skill, it doesn't matter what that is, you could be doing e-commerce, like, I know people who do Amazon FBA and are so successful at it, but I think also too the issue is, not just with nurses, but with everyone is that sometimes when things are hard, they think that it's not working.
Mhm.
But they also have to realize that you pick your heart. You're either one, work for somebody else the rest of your life. And yes, it's guaranteed. It's absolutely guaranteed pay. But if you want to knock that ceiling, go over the sky's the limit, you're going to have to struggle a little bit at first. You're going to have to
Yes.
learn something new. It's going to have to be hard. And that doesn't mean it's not working. There's this guy, love him to death. You have to watch him. His name is Myron Golden. He always
Iron.
says just because it's not working for you doesn't mean it's not working on you.
I like that.
I love that because it really keeps me motivated. Like, okay, maybe that didn't work, but it's like, okay, it's teaching me a lesson. It's doing
Teaching you
something.
something.
It's doing
As long
something.
as you have, like, that open mind to see that, "Oh, yeah, it didn't work, but I learned something from it," then I feel like you're just gonna be successful no matter what. If you're one of those people
Absolutely.
that think you're the victim all the time, I'm sorry, but, the world isn't built like that.
It's not. It's not at all. And I have goals. I don't even plan to live here. I want to move to Thailand by the time I'm 30. I told you I'll be
What?
28 next month. I have goals. I don't even want to be here. I want to live in Thailand.
Why Thailand? I wanna know that.
It's cheap. It's so cheap. You could get a $6 full body massage. I've done it. I've gotten a full body massage every single day just because it's only $6. It's $6. You could buy a whole condo and pay $400 a month. It's
That's
just so
amazing.
cheap. 60K here is like over 100K there.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that. And you're still gonna run your little empire from over there?
Exactly. That is the goal. American money, just not on American soil.
That's amazing. I like that plan. I like how we have all these goals, and you're still super young, so it's like you're really going after it, and we're going on like an hour already. So again, like if you had, we pretty much already said it, but if you had advice to anybody that wanted to reach out to you and try to figure out their life plan, what advice would you give them?
I would say just do it. That's a literally just start. Start that you have all the education you need. You have all the skills you need. You will never learn more than by doing it yourself. You're gonna
Mm,
make mistakes. That's life. You cannot prevent every last mistake. You cannot. You have to you have to pick your hard. Are you gonna be a slave the rest of your life? Or you just might be a slave for 3 years and then free the other 50. Like, you just have to start. I don't care what it is. You could change your mind. You could start one way, change, "Oh, Imma go this way." Fine, do it. Just life is too short. Do what you want to do. Do it.
dang, I love that. You're super motivational. I like that a
Thank
lot.
you.
And if anyone wanted to reach out to you, what's the best way that they could contact you?
So I'm on all social media platforms. I'm on Facebook, I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram. I'm mainly on Instagram and TikTok. I'm on Threads, the Wealth Building RN. Simple as that, though. It's all across platforms. It is that the Wealth Building RN.
Perfect. So, Kiani, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I
Thank
can't
you.
wait to put this out because you dropped so many like gems in this, and I appreciate you for hanging out with me.
Thank you. You have a good one.